When are you ready to hire your first offshore team member? Well, if you're asking yourself that question, congratulations. That's a great spot to be on. If you haven't hired offshore before, if you set it up right, it's magical. You are going to buy back your time, grow your sales, increase your marketing. Like there's so many win-wins behind it. So I'm so excited for you. But how do you know when the time is right? In this video, I'm going to share with you a few different case studies on how you know if you should hire now or just wait a little bit longer. So let's dive in. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Valerie Bowden, founder of Cradle. And in these videos, we talk all about hiring offshore talent, especially when it comes to hiring from Africa, which we think is the best continent to hire offshore talent from. So let's dive into this question. When are you ready to hire offshore talent? Well, it depends on your situation and what you're doing. So let me walk you through different scenarios. The first scenario is if you're launching something. Let's say you're launching a book. Recently, we had 2 different authors come to us and their situation was so different. The first author came to us and his book was already out for several months, but the book sales were not good. And so he came to us kind of frantically trying to increase those. And that's never a good spot to be in, honestly. He had LinkedIn, but we had to basically start from scratch because he wasn't using it. So we had to optimize his profile, add connections, help him post regularly. Like we had to do so many things to get his LinkedIn up. We also had to set up his Instagram for the first time, and we had to start pitching him on guest podcasts. However, pitching him on a guest podcast, it takes time. You have to pitch, you have to record, you have to wait for the recording to come out. It's not an overnight solution. So for this author, we actually did see some great returns on Amazon. He jumped in numbers and that was really positive, but it took months and it was painful and kind of there's some anxiety around it. So you don't want to wait that long if you're launching something. Now, the second situation was, again, another author, but he came to us 6 months before his book came out. And all he wanted to do was book guest podcasts for him. And so we had 6 months and he hired us for a 3-month contract. And he said, I want 30 podcasts booked in 3 months. And I want them to come out in time for my book, which is going to be in 6 months later. So that was an ideal situation. First, because he came to us before, because again, guest podcasting takes time. 2, I love that he gave us 3 full months to book him guest podcasts. He set a clear number, which was 30 podcasts, which is reasonable. And 3, he also offered the marketing assistant a $200 bonus if she actually did this. And bonuses aren't needed, but honestly, they work. They work in every country. Anyone who does sales or marketing loves a commission, right? So the marketing assistant was also highly motivated to do it. So when you look at the 2 author situation, you can tell that the person who prepared 6 months in advance is going to have better book sales from day 1. So again, if you're launching a book, a workshop, a new product, a new service, you want to start planning and hiring in advance. Now, second scenario is, let's say you're hiring a virtual assistant. When do you hire them? There is a sweet spot. We have seen some CEOs come to us where they are so busy, they do not have time to train. The virtual assistant has a hard time even getting a hold of the CEO. The CEO is so busy that they can't train, and then they stay busy because they can't get anything off of their to-do list because they don't have time to train someone. So that is not good, right? That CEO should have hired months before when he or she had time to do proper training. Not that it's too late. It's just like you don't want to be in that situation. Now, we've also had people come to us when they're still, let's say, newer entrepreneurs or they're in a startup and they're very optimistic, which is beautiful, but they hire too soon and they hire for too many hours. So recently we had someone who was super optimistic about her business. She hired a full-time marketing assistant for 40 hours a week. Well, after a couple months, she realized 1, her revenue did not justify a full-time hire. 2, she didn't need 40 full hours of marketing. It was too much because she was still in startup mode. She didn't know what she was doing. She was still figuring out prices. It was too much for her. So in this situation, I would have recommended that she just took 10 hours and kept it at 10 hours. And then over time, slowly grew those hours to 15 hours a week, 20 hours a week, and then finally 40 hours a week, maybe a year later when the business had grown with it. So all this to say, you don't want to go and hire when you're too busy, but you don't want to hire when you don't have enough work because you don't want to pay for hours when you don't have enough work to do. So I would wait until you have at least 10 hours of work that you've documented, you've done a time audit, you know that your emails take at least 10 hours, you know that you have calendar management, you know you have admin, you know you have these things. you've timed up how much it takes you to do it, so you know you have at least this certain amount of hours that justify the need to hire someone. Now, third situation is a good situation to be in, and that's when you're just basically looking for a copy-paste solution. So, for example, let's say you have someone going out on maternity leave, paternity leave, and you want someone to help fill in while they're out. Or perhaps you already have, let's say, an internal sales team, and you just want to hire one cold caller to basically do the same work that your internal team is doing. That's an easy one because you can just do it now. You know what the work is, you know how it's done, you probably already have training and onboarding ready, and you can hire just 1 or 2 people and then scale from there. So copy-paste solutions, hire now with 1 or 2 people and then grow from there. Now, the last factor that impacts this is also your season. So for example, in December of last year, we had a lot of inquiries saying, I know we're going to be busy in January. Should we hire in January or December? I would say December, because again, you want to hire a little bit before you're ready, not too much, but you don't want to hire during your busiest season because again, it takes time to train, not because the person's offshore or virtual, but because any new employee to your company needs time to learn about your company, learn about your story, learn about your products and services, to shadow you, to get feedback from you. So you don't want to bring them in on the busiest part of your season because that's going to be overwhelming for you and for them. So bring them in a month or 2 before it gets so busy, so that way when you are busy, they can be a solid help for you. So those are the 4 factors, and let's review again. So factor number 1 is if you're launching something, plan in advance. Don't do it afterwards, it's gonna be stressful. Number 2 is if, let's say you're hiring a virtual assistant, you wanna do it when you're not so busy, but not when you don't have enough work to justify it either. Don't be optimistic, just base it on like actual data, do a time audit, and really figure out what your numbers are. Number 3 is if you're looking for a copy-paste solution, you're replacing or just scaling, you can do it now. You already have everything you need, the resources. And number 4 is based on the season. So bring someone in a month or 2 before your busy season so that you can train them, catch them up to speed, and so that way they're ready when you do get busy. So those are my tips for you. If you have any questions about when is the right time to hire, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this video.